All right. Well, welcome everybody to the U.S. Department of Agriculture Climate Hub's fourth and final webinar series on the climate challenges and solutions for the Caribbean region. I'm Barbara Bennett, the director of the International Climate Hub, and I'm joined today again by Bill Gould, the director of USDA's Caribbean Climate Hub. We are excited to talk to you about some international resources we have available to you that we're aware of, want to make sure you're aware of, and have a great panel lined up to talk to you about those resources. But before we get started, Morgan, did you want to share a bit of information on some logistical items?
Sure, yes. As you have joined, you probably saw a little pop-up for choosing your audio, language, and interpretation options. If you're interested in joining the Spanish channel, select Spanish. If you want to stay in the English channel, you can go with original audio. And if you're interested in ASL interpretation, you should be able to go up to your view options and make sure that you change your view to highlight the interpreter for you if you're interested in that. Other than that, I think we're ready to go.
Perfect. And I just want to add, because of the small size of today's webinar and the fact that we love when these things are engaging and interactive, please feel free to use the hand function to just put things in the chat, to turn your camera on if you'd like to chat with us. Like we've done other times that the speakers will speak, you're welcome to ask some questions immediately afterwards, but we will have a longer question and answer session at the end. So with that, I think we will get started with our very first speaker, who is Tayo Akingbe, and she is with the Foreign Agricultural Service, my home agency, and she is going to talk to us about COP29 and tell us what that acronym means and all the good stuff that is involved with that very impressive international conference every year. So go ahead, Tayo.
Good morning. Thank you, Barbara. Let me share my screen. Hold on a second. Okay. Is this showing for everyone?
Looks good.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I can start off by explaining what COP is. So COP is the UNF triple, I use more acronyms, the United Nations Climate Change Conference. Basically, it's held every year in different countries. And this is when we have countries come together to discuss their climate actions, like actions that they'll do to adapt and mitigate to climate change. So I'm happy to speak to you guys today about COP29, which is coming up this year. So just as a brief introduction, my name is Tayo Akingbe. I'm a climate advisor at the Foreign Ag Service at USDA. And I'll talk to you just briefly about USDA's engagement in the UN Climate Conference, particularly in COP29. So COP29 is taking place in Baku, Azerbaijan from November 11th to the 22nd. So each day of COP, there's a different theme day. And so for these purposes, our interest is in the Food, Water, and Agriculture Day, which will take place on November 19th. And our secretary, Secretary Tom Vilsack, is expected to attend and lead a delegation from USDA there. And the COP29 presidency, so each year, wherever it's held, whichever country is hosting, has their own slogan for the COP. And this year it's in Baku, in Azerbaijan, and they decided that their slogan is "In Solidarity for a Green World." And within this, they are focusing on two mutually reinforcing parallel pillars. The first is to enhance ambition, and this means to get countries to commit to ambitious national plans and transparency, and enabling action is the second pillar, where this will focus on the role of climate finance to turn ambition into action. So I'd like to note also that with COP28 being called the Global Stocktake COP, which basically means where countries were taking account of the actions that they were taking to meet their goals for mitigating climate change. So that was COP28. That was last year in Dubai. And next year's COP 30, is being held in Brazil. And that's also a very important COP because that's going to be held in the Amazon, which is the first time being held in that space in the Amazon. As you can imagine, is a very important region as far as for climate purposes. So some people think of COP29 as not as important as a bridge COP, but I do like to emphasize that every COP is important because for our goals of keeping what they say, keeping 1.5 alive, or basically our goal of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And it's also important because it's also like the parallel pillars say, it's also a point where countries can increase their ambition and show how they are meeting these actions that they're proposing to do. So COP29, very important COP for these reasons. So just to touch on how agriculture has played out in recent UNFCCC negotiations, agriculture has been relevant since the beginning of multilateral climate negotiations, with the importance of food and food security and food production systems mentioned in the UNFCCC Framework Convention and the 2015 Paris Agreement. So at COP29, Azerbaijan has made an important focus on progress and transparency. So this is shown through the country's biennial transparency reports. So these are reports that countries are basically just sharing what they're doing to meet the goals of mitigating climate change. So these reports are due December 31st. So that's one part for transparency. And then the other part is for countries to present new and more ambitious nationally determined contributions. And these are due in February 2025. So at COP29, the world is eager to see ambitious, achievable, whole of economy, nationally determined contributions, or NDCs, put forward, and including in the agriculture, livestock, and forestry sectors. And countries are eager to see their planning efforts and ambition demonstrated in the NDCs met with cooperative support and to achieve their targets and plans. So, so I will note that USDA, along with the whole of the USG, is tracking work on the Paris Agreement's global goal on adaptation, or GGA, to enhance adaptive capacity, strengthen resilience, and reduce vulnerability to climate change, with a view to contributing to sustainable development. This adopted framework includes voluntary targets, with one on climate resilient food systems. Also, there's a 2-year work program that was launched at COP28 to measure progress on these targets that are set to conclude in COP 30. Also, lastly, COP29 will also focus on the new collective quantified goal, which is NCQG, that will draw climate finance issues into sharp focus and address loss and damage associated with climate change. And just to note, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right, Ibrahim Sheikh Diong was selected as the inaugural executive director for this new fund, responding to loss and damage, and with a 4-year term beginning November 1st, 2024. So in touching on other recent UNFCCC negotiations that focus on agriculture, at COP27, countries reported on the progress and findings of the Coronivia Joint Work on Agriculture that was conducted from 2018 to 2022, and agreed to establish a new 4-year work program on implementation of climate action on agriculture and food security. They also agreed to establish an online portal to facilitate sharing of practices and policies to increase implementation opportunities, and also requested that the UNFCCC Secretariat prepare a synthesis report of implementation and related efforts across the UNFCCC. At COP27, parties made a huge advance in shifting focus of the UNFCCC ag work to implementing climate action, as exemplified in the Sharm el-Sheikh joint work on implementation of climate action in agriculture and food security, or the SSJW. So this is an important platform for countries to show what they're doing, what could be scaled up through cooperative efforts, and where we need other actors like the private sector to engage more deeply. And so as far as COP announcements and initiatives, this is an example of different announcements and initiatives that were announced at prior COPs. So we have the Aim for Climate Initiative, Partnerships for Climate Smart Commodities Initiative. That's a domestic initiative that USDA launched a couple years ago. You have the Global Methane Pledge, several different announcements and initiatives that are announced at COP. So as far as USDA and our team, we're still working on what will be announced at COP29, but you can expect discussions and events around progress and achievements as a result of the $40 billion in U.S. climate investments through the Inflation Reduction Act that was launched in 2022, particularly in clean energy in rural areas. That's something USDA has been working hard on the last few years. So not only that, progress and achievements as a result of the as the result of more than $3 billion of investment in USDA's Partnerships for Climate Smart Commodities program that was also launched 2 years ago. So just talking about where we've come with the program and where we're planning to go with it, as well as progress and achievements on the Aim for Climate initiative, which I know my colleague will speak more about in this webinar. And that's thank you for listening. That's just a quick overview of our of the COP29 and what USDA plans to do at COP. I left my email address in case anybody wants to contact me. Happy to discuss and happy to take any questions or take questions at the end. But thank you.
Thank you, Tayo. And I'll just point out for those listening that Tayo is sort of the entry point for USDA for COP. So if you hear of an event that you think might be interesting, you want to flag it for her, you're curious about what the US is attending, she is your point person for that. So she is all things COP in terms of organization and direction for us. So just want to now see if there are any questions for her. Checking out the chat. Not seeing any in the chat. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tayo. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
And, you know, Tayo mentioned Aim for Climate. That is a big initiative that we'd love to have you learn a little bit more about. And so to do that is Evan Sieradzki, and he's with the Office of the Secretary. So, Evan, take it away.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen here. All right. Can everyone see okay?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. So hello, and again, welcome to this presentation on Aim for Climate. Excited to be here today and speak with all of you, and I want to give a special thanks to the organizers at the Foreign Agriculture Service for organizing this and inviting me to speak more about Aim for Climate. My name is Evan Sieradzki. I am an International Affairs Fellow at the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Office of the Chief Scientist and a co-lead on the Agriculture Innovation Mission for Climate, or Aim for Climate, as Tayo mentioned earlier. First, I want to thank everyone who may already be a member of Aim for Climate for their much appreciated partnership, and for those of you who are not yet members, for your much appreciated interest. I plan to keep my presentation relatively brief and want to provide an overview of accomplishments and discuss participation and plans for the rest of 2024 leading up to COP. But would love to have you all introduce yourselves in the chat if you have not done so already. So your name and where you're participating in this presentation from. It would be great to get a better idea and understanding of where everyone is tuning in from. So again, this is the agenda for today. So we'll have an overview, discuss accomplishments, participation, and then we'll have some question and answers at the end. And of course, you can always reach out to me directly for any questions that you might have after this presentation. So for overview, Aim for Climate is co-led by the United States and the United Arab Emirates. The Agriculture Innovation Mission for Climate, or Aim for Climate, was launched by President Biden in November 2021 at COP26. Aim for Climate is the first global agriculture climate initiative to be launched by a US president. Last year's COP28 was a watershed COP for food systems. This is an important moment and opportunity to shape the global climate change, agriculture, and food systems conversation, so we hope you'll join us in doing so. Innovation is essential to feeding a growing population on the same amount of land while reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Aim for Climate is focused on driving more rapid and transformative climate action across the global agricultural sector, empowering agriculture innovation to be part of the solution to address the climate crisis, build resilience to its impacts, and create co-benefits of climate action in all countries. Aim for Climate seeks to raise the profile of food and agriculture to build momentum for increased investment, which is nowhere near the historic investment we have seen for the energy transition, such as solar and wind energy. We need the same investment to scale technologies and climate-smart agricultural innovation. The initiative has a specific time-bound focus to increase investment in climate-smart agriculture innovation over 5 years. Our definition of innovation includes research, development, demonstration, and deployment. So our objectives are to increase investment, enable coordination and collaboration, increase cooperation to enable cooperation on shared research priorities between countries. The scope of Aim for Climate includes scientific breakthroughs, public and private applied research, and development, demonstration, and deployment of innovative solutions. Aim for Climate builds on FAO's definition of climate-smart agriculture to sustainably increase agriculture productivity and incomes while adapting and building resilience to climate change and/or reducing or removing greenhouse gas emissions. And of course, diversity, equity, and inclusion are at the core of Aim for Climate's mission, and it's impossible to meet our goals without this. Transitioning into accomplishments, Aim for Climate has made impressive progress since its launch. In the last year, Aim for Climate has doubled investments, partners, and innovation sprints in transformative climate-smart agriculture and food systems innovation, as announced at the 28th United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP28. The US and UAE co-hosted the Aim for Climate Summit on May 8th through 10th of 2023 in Washington, D.C., in the lead up to COP28 in the United Arab Emirates. There were 3 days, 7 high-level plenary sessions, 27 breakout sessions, 16 interactive exhibits, 6 tours, and over 1,100 attendees. The UAE hosted COP28, where Aim for Climate held 3 core events at the UAE Pavilion, US Center, and COP28 Presidency Main Stage. Aim for Climate partners hosted 26 events through the Aim for Climate Roadshow, and Innovation Sprint partners highlighted their work in 3.5 hours of programming at the Aim for Climate Innovation Sprint Showcase. Since its launch at COP26, Aim for Climate's partners have more than tripled their investments in climate-smart agriculture and food systems innovation to more than $17 billion, including public and private sector-led investments. Governments account for roughly $12 billion in increased investments, and private sector innovation sprints more than $5 billion. Aim for Climate has formed a historic climate-smart agriculture coalition with over 600 partners and growing. And the ambition of Aim for Climate's partner network reached global audiences in over 20 countries and 6 languages. Next, I'll transition into what participation in Aim for Climate looks like. So there are 3 different partnership types to participate in Aim for Climate, and all voluntary participation in this historic coalition. Partners can join as a government partner, innovation sprint partner, or knowledge partner. Government participants or government partners announce an increase in aggregate public investment in agricultural innovation for climate smart agriculture and food systems innovation over the next 5 years between 2021 and 2025, using 2020 as a baseline. Responsibility, control, and oversight of investments will remain with the participant. They also support the objectives of Aim for Climate and intend to participate in its activities. Aim for Climate currently has 56 government partners. New government partners will be highlighted at the 3rd Aim for Climate Ministerial and COP29 later this year. Government partners have increased investment in climate smart agriculture and food systems innovation by $12 billion, and new government partner investments will be highlighted at COP29. Aim for Climate will host the 3rd ministerial meeting on the sidelines of COP29, and this is a great opportunity for government ministers to connect and highlight the work of their respective countries to promote climate smart agriculture and food systems innovation all over the world. In the lead up to the 3rd Aim for Climate Ministerial, we are asking government partners to report their investment figures in climate smart agriculture and food systems innovation, so the aggregate increase among partner countries can be announced at the ministerial. This can be easily accomplished by submitting something as simple as, for example, our country is proud to participate in and support the Agriculture Innovation Mission for Climate. Our country intends to increase investments in climate smart agriculture and food systems innovation by an example amount. It's important to note that Aim for Climate does not intend to announce individual monetary amounts. Information provided to Aim for Climate will be rolled into one monetary figure for announcement, as was done at COP26, 27, the summit, and COP28. Transitioning into the road to COP29 and beyond, despite tremendous success, our work is not done. Again, Aim for Climate is a 5-year initiative from 2021 to 2025, and now in its 4th year, it is critically important for partners to work together towards institutionalizing progress. It is at COP29 where updated investment figures will be announced from our new innovation sprint partners and government partners, and new government partners will also be announced. So now is a pivotal opportunity to join Aim for Climate and become a part of the movement to advance climate smart agriculture and food systems innovation. There is also an upcoming opportunity for partners to memorialize support for Aim for Climate and its continued efforts until solutions at the intersection of climate change and food security are no longer needed. This will be done through the Aim for Climate report, which is titled Aim for Climate Report: Cultivating Transformative Investments in Climate Smart Agriculture and Food Systems Innovation. The Aim for Climate report again commemorates Aim for Climate's partners' efforts, supports institutional change, and motivates institutional legacy. It provides recommendations to empower partners to continue efforts for years to come. It was released by Secretary Vilsack on September 24th, an event during the New York Climate Week. And key components of the 3rd Aim for Climate Ministerial will be included in during the upcoming ministerial from the report. It further enhances awareness of UNFCCC and the nationally determined contribution process, and encourages agriculture to have a seat at the table during national NDC discussions, and further supports commitments by parties at COP28 to encourage submission of economy-wide NDCs in 2025. It builds on the foundation provided from a disquisition led by the UN Foundation and Climate Focus titled Increasing Ambition in Nationally Determined Contributions Through Agriculture and Food Systems Innovation, commissioned by Aim for Climate. So these 2 separate reports really build on one another. We have the larger disquisition, which provides an in-depth literature analysis of the current state of nationally determined contributions, while the Aim for Climate report offers 4 key recommendations on how to move forward based off of evidence found in the disquisition. Following publication, the UN Foundation will help catalyze partner-based outreach into 2024 and beyond. So I want to thank you all again for the opportunity to speak with you all today about Aim for Climate, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have now, or you can reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to discuss with you. So thank you all again for allowing me to speak with you today.
Thanks, Evan. Yeah, this is such an interesting thing. I think it started off as an idea, and I don't know if anyone expected it to grow the way that it has. I mean, it's just astounding when you see the numbers in the billions. 12 billion, 17 billion pledged, 56 government partners. It's really phenomenal what this has become. So it's exciting, and thanks to you and your team for all the work that's gone into that. Let me see if we have any questions in the chat here. I thought I saw a hand up. Second. Yes, Bill, go ahead.
Sure. Thanks, Evan. I've been aware of the program for quite a while, but it is quite fascinating to see the investment. And I wonder if you could just share some insights about really that how a program like this, what is it doing? Is it motivating individual countries, the folks involved in agriculture, because they see a larger vision? It motivates them to make these contributions, or is it just capturing the energy of the moment where climate change is a priority? I don't know if you have any insights along those lines, but it is quite impressive how this has captured such a degree of investment and focused it on these climate solutions.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for us, it was really trying to get agriculture to have a seat at the table for international climate change solutions. So prior to, I think it was COP26, where we really launched Aim for Climate, that agriculture didn't have as large of an impact or influence in these conversations surrounding climate change. Behind energy, the agriculture sector is the largest contributor of greenhouse gas emissions across the world. So we really wanted to create a initiative that really highlighted the innovation that was happening around the world from region to region and sector to sector, to motivate others to consider agriculture as innovation in agriculture as a solution to climate change, challenges faced by climate change. So I think that was part of the motivation for Aim for Climate, as well as creating connections between our government partners, our innovation sprint partners, and our knowledge partners to scale successes that we have seen in different parts of the world to different regions, and really fit the need of what needs to happen to fight climate change and make sure that we are able to get the help where it is needed most, whether that's connecting innovation sprint partners with knowledge partners, or government partners to innovation sprint partners. There's a lot of really amazing, important work that's happening all over the world, and Aim for Climate has been that catalyst to motivate the change that we need to see happening in the agriculture sector for innovation.
All right, thank you.
Evan, could you talk a bit about some of the innovation sprints? I mean, they're just really interesting. Is there one or two you could just sort of describe? And I also love if you could put in the chat sort of the link to those videos that talk about the innovation sprints. But first, just a description so people kind of get a sense of what one of them is like.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me actually, I can share my screen here. So on our innovation sprints page on the at aimforclimate.org, and I'll put this in the chat as well, you can get a list of all of the different innovation sprints that are currently taking place right now. We just finished the application for the most recent round of innovation sprints at the end of August. So we are looking forward to announcing the upcoming innovation sprints that we have happening at the ministerial and COP29. But for example, I'll just pick on page 2 here. Let's go to designing seeds for climate smart agriculture system. So here, when I clicked on this, you can see that Inari has secured over $124 million for an innovation sprint to concentrate on developing high-yield, low-input crops, focusing on wheat, soybeans, and corn. You can see the participants as well as a point of contact for those who are interested in making that type of connection, learning more about the innovation sprint, or possibly scaling in a different place, area, or region. So this is just one example of the many innovation sprints that we have listed on our website, and we will be updating this prior to or during COP29. So let me go ahead and I'll actually go back to the Aim for Climate homepage here. So up at the top, you can see the homepage, the landing page for Aim for Climate. You can access the report that we most recently published, see the innovation sprints, and get involved with Aim for Climate in a number of different ways. Just to showcase the support that we are very excited and proud of, and looking forward to working with our partner countries on implementing these 4 key recommendations here.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for allowing yourself to be put on the spot. That was fantastic. I love this website. I love how you can find things and it leads you back to contacts, and you can look at scalability. You can look at applicability for your own country. So I just want to plug that particular site.
No, thank you. I'm
Okay.
always happy to talk about it. Thank you.
Okay. So not seeing any hands raised or questions in the chat, but if you're interested in joining Aim for Climate, please contact Evan. Any of us can pass on that information too, because we work for the Foreign Agricultural Service. We often field those kind of requests or questions about Aim for Climate, but feel free to contact Evan if you're interested, and we look forward to having as many partners as possible. All right, so next we're going to turn to Cathy McKinnell. She, again, works at the Foreign Agricultural Service, and she's going to talk about the Sustainable Productivity Growth Coalition, which is a very interesting coalition that she actually initiated and helps to organize. And I won't steal your thunder, but it combines some really unique aspects of sustainability and productivity growth together. So go ahead, Cathy.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm struggling here with sharing my screen. I was just pulling up our website, and I think that messed me up a little bit. So give me just 1 second, please. Okay, what are you seeing there, guys?
We see the FAO roadmap, productivity milestones.
Okay. Wonderful. We're in the right screen. Wonderful. Right. Thank you, guys. Thanks for the invitation. I'm Cathy McKinnell with I'm a senior policy advisor and also the co-lead of the Sustainable Productivity Growth Coalition, and I work with many of my colleagues here at the Foreign Agricultural Service. So I'm really thrilled to be able to talk to you today about productivity growth, what it is, what's happening on the front, and the role it plays in climate change and greenhouse gas mitigation and preserving our natural resources while also meeting our needs of food and nutrition. We're going to talk a little bit about the innovation and research and development that are the drivers of productivity growth, and also how that is a foundation for climate smart agriculture. And then we'll talk a little bit about the productivity growth coalition. So let's start with, what is ag productivity growth? So it measures the efficiency with which inputs are used to produce an output. It's not necessarily more production. We can use less resources and still get the same amount of output. When resources, we're talking about land, labor, machinery, livestock, feed, all those types of inputs. When we talk about sustainable agricultural productivity growth, we're looking at the 3 dimensions of sustainable development: the economic, the environmental, and the social. We want to look at all 3 components. Many times we're very good at looking at the environmental aspect, but maybe not the social or the economic. We're looking at the economic, but not looking at the social and the environmental. So we are taking a holistic approach with this coalition to look at all 3 pillars of sustainability. Also, for those that talk a lot about or think about circular agriculture, productivity growth aligns with the concept of circular agriculture as defined as aiming to maximize resource efficiency, utility, and value over time while fostering natural resource regeneration. So as we're all aware, we're facing a lot of daunting challenges in agriculture, from producing enough food to meeting the nutrition needs of our growing population, to making it healthy and nutritious and accessible to all. We also must ensure decent livelihoods for farmers and farm workers and all of those engaged in farming, while also conserving our resources in the face of ever-tightening resource constraints, while adapting and mitigating to climate change. So ag productivity growth is essential for simultaneously addressing all of these challenges.
Yeah,
One point I
Cathy?
would, yes.
Cathy, if I could just interrupt, are you
Yes.
advancing your slides? We're still seeing the first slide.
Oh, I am advancing my slides. So give me one moment, please. What slide are you seeing now? Productivity growth is critical?
Yes, and your notes.
And your notes. Okay.
Yeah, they're your notes.
Oh, well,
It's the whole.
I'm so sorry. How about this? Is this a little better?
That's better.
That's
We
better.
see
Slide
productivity
10.
growth is critical for more sustainable agriculture and food systems.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'm sorry you didn't get to see all those wonderful other slides. Okay, so we're just talking about all the challenges that are facing agriculture right now. And the key point here is ag productivity growth is essential for simultaneously addressing these multiple challenges. And one other thing I want to put out there is that we can achieve sustainability and productivity growth at the same time. It's a false narrative that productivity growth erodes sustainability. In fact, it would be hard to achieve sustainable agriculture without productivity growth. So it's critical for reducing agriculture's environmental footprint, reducing greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture. And a recent study from the USDA's Economic Research Service found that countries where ag productivity growth has reduced inputs, they've been able to curb the growth of or even reduce greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture. Countries where input use is still rising are seeing rapid increases in emissions. And another study from the World Resources Institute talked about it's critical to avoid increase in the use of our limited natural resources, including the expansion of agriculture into forests and other critical ecosystems. The study found that without productivity growth, that we would require the use of natural resources, including the expansion of ag into forests and other critical ecosystems. And such an expansion would threaten the ability to meet our greenhouse gas emission reduction goals, even if all other human resources activities were dramatically curtailed. So in addition to the research, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals that were established in 2015 recognized the role of agricultural productivity growth in meeting many of the goals, and in particular, Goal 2, achieving zero hunger, in which two specific metrics call out for the doubling of ag productivity of small-scale farmers, and also for increasing sustainable food systems to build more resilience that will increase productivity and production. And in fact, of all of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, sustainable productivity growth contributes to 6 of them, as we just spoke about, in particular, SDG 13, climate action. And that is because of the ripple effects of reducing extension into natural resources and reducing greenhouse gases. Well, what's happening out there with agricultural productivity growth? This is a chart by the USDA Economic Research Service, where the left-hand margin is axis is looking at percentage increase. And this is what they use is total factor productivity growth, looking at input intensification, land expansion, irrigation extension, and others. But what we're seeing here in the last decade is total factor productivity growth has fallen to 1.14%. And in fact, they just announced last week that over the last 10 years, productivity growth has fallen to just 0.7%. What is significant here is in order to reach the 2015 objectives for meeting food security needs, total factor productivity needs to grow at 2%. So we're falling well far behind that. So why has productivity growth slowed? There are several reasons. One is a slowing rate of innovation and reduced research and development. And in particular, the US has had declining research and development, whereas in China, R&D is growing rapidly. Another area is climate change and weather shocks. We see that much in the Caribbean region, and also the emergence of disease and pests also contribute. A key thing we hear often is the slow adoption and diffusion of technologies. They contribute to slowing productivity growth. And also the lack or the weak extension services and lack of land tenure rights, especially in underserved communities, all contribute to lower productivity growth. In addition, barriers to market access and trade, including trade in technologies such as biotechnology, leads to slower uptake of new technologies. So what does this mean? Just real quick synopsis. It means higher food prices, greater food insecurity, hunger and malnutrition, increased poverty, greater use of natural resources, such as bringing in less productive land, wetlands, grasslands, and increasing deforestation, and also increased greenhouse gas emissions. Now, how do we fuel productivity growth? You'll hear a little similarity or a lot of similarities with what Evan just talked about with the aim for climate. So sustainable productivity growth stems from innovation. Innovation and knowledge capital. Things such as new crop varieties, drought-tolerant varieties. My hand keeps hitting that. Pest-resistant seeds and improved crop protection products. Also, innovative management and nature-based approaches, such as use of drones and precision application of nutrients or crop protection products, the use of cover crops and no-till, all can contribute to increasing productivity growth. Also, new institutional arrangements and infrastructures, such as adoption of innovations, is dependent on enabling environments, such as the existence of regulatory infrastructure, extension and education, general infrastructure, and market resources or market services. One thing to note is achieving sustainable productivity growth is not a one-size-fits-all technology solution. It must be place-based and reflective of natural local conditions. Sustainable productivity growth is also fueled by knowledge capital and is nurtured by private and public investments in R&D, and that's one of the areas that the Aim for Climate is trying to increase. The dissemination of knowledge and evolving expertise of farmers, ranchers, natural resource managers, and food systems are all critical players in this arena. Because without the adoption of innovations, without the adoption of new innovations, they have no impact and just remain on the shelf. So also, sustainable productivity is improved and amplified through uncommon collaborations that leverage diverse types of knowledge and help to widely disseminate best practices. Collaborations such as public-private sectors, the Partnership for Climate Smart Commodities program that USDA is administering, and farm groups and regional organizations working together to break down stovepipes and to disseminate information or reform policies. So this all lays the foundation for why we had stepped forward with a coalition on sustainable productivity growth. The coalition was evolved out of the 2021 UN Food Systems Summit, where the United States and many other members initiated the coalition. And the title is very long, but it's reflective that we're focusing on not only food security, but also resource conservation. The coalition aims to achieve multiple objectives by raising awareness about the importance of ag productivity growth for meeting the world's food needs, alleviating poverty, shrinking the ag's environmental impact, and combating climate change. We achieve this through guiding international discussions and building collaborations. So I want to switch here and just two recent developments that reflect how productivity growth is becoming more in the awareness and conversations. Is last year at COP28, the Food and Ag Organization released their FAO roadmap, which included 10 metrics, 10 domains, and of those 10, you'll see 5 on the screen include productivity measures. So, and then at COP28 last year, the Emirates Declaration that was put forward also mentioned the role of sustainable productivity in meeting our goals for agriculture. So these milestones set up a good opportunity for the coalition to mobilize its action and advocate for productivity growth. And then also coming next or 2 weeks from now, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, they do a lot of work on productivity growth, and they're going to have an international conference on October 28th that is focused entirely on sustainable productivity growth, the metrics, the drivers, the data, and policies. And that will be live streamed. So I would just suggest everyone, or maybe through Barbara, we can send the link to that event and you can watch that as well. So again, I want to recognize that the diversity of agriculture around the world that supports that. Therefore, we need to support a place-based strategies and solutions which fit different geographic regions, different crops, different farm sizes and styles, and socio-economic conditions. The coalition doesn't take a one-size-fits-all approach. And then the second bullet here, the coalition contributes to closing ag productivity gaps and advance progress on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, especially ending Goal 2, ending hunger, that we just looked at a moment ago. And also, the coalition achieves its goal by providing a platform for countries and other coalition members to collaborate on specific actions that they each identify. Another goal is to build members' knowledge base on sustainable productivity growth and approaches and best practices, and that can be seen in a compendium of best practices and lessons learned that the coalition members we collaborated on and issued this compendium with over 50 types of practices, from crops to livestock to research, that can be implementable. They're all hands-on practices to help improve productivity growth. And I can certainly drop a link in the chat after presentation so that you can all take a look at that. So how to engage in the Sustainable Productivity Growth Coalition? All stakeholders involved or wanting to advance agricultural productivity growth are welcome. The membership now is 120 members with 22 countries, but we also have many from industry, from academics, from research organizations. NGOs are welcome to join, and of course, governments are welcome to join and provide a valuable role in the coalition. It's a voluntary, non-binding coalition. So we just ask for someone to sign a declaration of support saying, yes, I believe in productivity growth and we would like to join your coalition. The coalition serves as a wonderful platform for disseminating innovative, evidence-based approaches for sustainable productivity growth, and also, most importantly, identifying collaborative opportunities. While the coalition is not a platform for funding, it is a platform for collaboration and information sharing. The website has a lot of information about the coalition, and I'll put up a QR code or QR codes right there. You can take a look at that. So in summary, I just wanted to reiterate the importance of the efficiency gains and productivity growth for meeting our agriculture's multiple objectives, and it cannot be overstated. Productivity growth is critical for reducing the environmental footprint and also reducing greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture sector. It helps avoid increased use of natural resources, including the expansion into forests and other critical ecosystems. It's very important that we have investment in research and development and innovation and have the knowledge and the adoption of these new technologies. Innovation needs to adapt to the climate change and address other emerging threats such as pests and diseases and soil and water degradation. All of these need to be place-based and one size fits all. So again, the coalition serves as a platform for sharing this information, and we encourage anyone on the call that is interested to reach out to me or to go to the website and learn more about the coalition, and we invite you to join us on our path to improving productivity growth. Thanks. There are 2 QR codes for you.
Thanks, Cathy. That's great. And then we also have, I put in the chat the link on the International Climate Hub website. We do feature the compendium as well. It's just such an interesting initiative. And I wonder if you could talk, like I did with Evan, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. Could you describe a specific project just so people can kind of wrap their brains around the types of things that are, the countries proposed to do and then work on?
Sure. There are just so many.
I know.
And some of them, I think the key is that they're all hands-on, whether it's water management in aquaculture, small farm or aquaculture, and how to manage the water and how to manage the nutrients. That's an easy, quick takeaway if you're in aquaculture. There are examples of feed nutrients and feed additives to help with methane in dairy cows. There are alfalfa as an alternative to nitrogen fertilizer in irrigated pastures. Just a whole range of things, and it's very easy just to kind of word search in the compendium to find specific projects that would be applicable to your situations.
I think the emphasis on just doing more with less is so important. And I love the focus on the productivity growth. All these things are incredibly important to all regions, but I think particularly in the Caribbean. And I wonder if we have any questions from our audience sort of about the focus of this coalition. Any other questions? Looking in the chat.
I'll be happy to answer questions at the end. Bill's got his hand up. Bill, floor is yours.
Sure. I was kind of waiting to see if somebody would jump in from our audience there, but I do have a question about, a lot of the agricultural operations in the Caribbean are small scale. They're very mixed agriculture, and sometimes it's hard to maybe integrate some of the technological advances that might be more easily applied at larger scale based on the economies and things. Are there some examples maybe in this coalition that might relate or kind of highlight that characteristic of a lot of the operations in the Caribbean?
Yeah, you're right. The small scale farmer, for some of these challenges, for some of these programs, the larger scales, it is challenging, but there are very many that are small scale farmers can implement. I'm going to get the name wrong. I think I saw AC Mocha. Help me out with you. I saw that you may be on the call. You're a member of the club, the coalition, and also that's an example of taking some of these projects and implementing them right on the ground. I know USAID does some of their programs are also applicable right on the ground. Working with governments, we can get the technologies through their resources. So there are ways of, there are many implementers that can get down to the small scale farmers to implement these.
That's great. Thanks.
So Cathy, a question from the audience. You mentioned, they can email you if they're interested, but how do you go about joining the coalition? What all is involved with saying, I want to join this?
Yeah, essentially, it's I want to join it. We have a declaration of support just because when we started in 2021, if people got on a call, they were like, oh, they're part of the coalition. So all we've done is ask just to sign a coalition, a declaration of support saying we want to join. Any entity, anyone except for an individual, any entity can join. We have terms of reference that you can review to see if it aligns with what you're doing. And again, it's just, we're really trying to focus on the sustainable nature of productivity growth and not just looking at one of the developed sustainable pillars. So everyone's welcome. Love to have the stronger we are, the more diverse our membership is, the stronger we are together.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And there may be more questions at the end for you. So now we're going to turn to Candace Bruce. She's going to talk about something pretty unique. It is an International Year of the Woman Farmer, which is something that USDA actually put forward, the United States put forward, and a lot of countries have joined us. And she's here to talk about that pretty exciting new initiative. So go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Barbara. Can you guys see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, and good morning, and thank you for taking the time to be here on this webinar series. I want to especially thank Barbara and Bill and their teams and everyone who put in all of the hard work to put this webinar series together for the Caribbean. So I'm going to talk a little bit about one of USDA's and the US's newest initiatives, and it's called the International Year of the Woman Farmer, and this will take place actually officially in 2026. So a little bit of the background, the International Year of the Woman Farmer highlights actions that can help close the gender gap and move us closer towards achieving food security, gender equality, and the Sustainable Development Goals. This was just pushed through the UN General Assembly in May of this year, and the USDA hosted a launch event at the end of June. And what's really unique about 2026 as the International Year of the Woman Farmer is that this the same year the United States will host the G20. And so we really expect a lot of the messaging and deliverables from the International Year of the Woman Farmer to be featured in our G20 presidency. We have 123 co-sponsors for this initiative. Thank you, everybody. And there's quite a few Caribbean countries on here. If you don't see your country, that is okay. We know that there are several other countries that are really supportive of this initiative and for whatever reason didn't officially co-sponsor, but they are more than welcome to get involved in this effort. And our hope is that with this large coalition of co-sponsors, this sends a very strong message to the world about our support of women in agriculture on the largest global platform. So we have 4 key areas for action in the International Year of the Woman Farmer. The first area is access to education. We want to identify educational opportunities, trainings, webinars, and creating mentorship and leadership opportunities for women in agriculture. And let me go back because that's a very important thing. The year is the International Year of the Woman Farmer, but this is not exclusive to women farmers specifically. This initiative is broad and it includes all women in agriculture. So don't think because you're not a woman farmer that you won't be included in these initiatives and these efforts because it is very inclusive. The second area that we're looking at and hoping to achieve progress on is in technology, and specifically climate smart technologies, and not just women's access to more technology, but also we want to facilitate the adoption of these technologies. Increasing access to credit and markets is very important to us, and we'd like at the end of 2026 to see more utilization of women and more access for women to credit programs and access to land. I think that's self-explanatory, but especially for women in agriculture, access to land and land tenure is critical to achieving progress in advancing women in agriculture. Okay, so we have 6 objectives for the international year, and these objectives will help us achieve progress in the 4 areas that I just mentioned. So the first one is increasing public's awareness of women's role in farming. And this is so important because a lot of people aren't aware that women produce half of the food that the world consumes, and in some countries up to 60 to 80%. And so we want to make this known, and we want to work with social media, spotlighting women farmers, women in agriculture, women leaders using traditional media as well, and just making sure that the public is aware of the impact that women in agriculture have on their everyday lives. We want to support the development of policies conducive to the empowerment of women farmers. And again, making sure that people are aware of the issues and the challenges. And the more awareness you have, we hope that the more benefits will come out of these. And we're also looking to create synergies amongst international activities that are related to women in agriculture and women farmers. And this is also very important because we don't want these efforts to end at the end of 2026. You know, the year is actually just 365 days, but we don't want to stop empowering women at the end of 2026. We hope that enough of this effort and enough of this knowledge is mainstream so that people continue with the goals of the international year far past 2026, and this just becomes mainstreamed into how the international community operates. Okay. Our 4th objective is attaining a better understanding of the technical needs and constraints that women farmers face. Again, this is part of that educational key priority area that we want to achieve. And to achieve this, we're also working with a lot of organizations and colleges and universities who are doing some of the research and reporting on data gaps that we have related to women in agriculture, and helping to identify some of the needs that they have. And we want to attain, again, better awareness of land tenure issues, how they impact women's farmers, and lastly, attain a better understanding of women's access to credit and how we can help increase that access to credit markets. Okay. So again, this is an extremely inclusive initiative. So we have several implementing partners here. One, the United States government, and we have a large coalition of departments and agencies, USDA, USAID, State Department, the Millennium Challenge Corporation, Department of Treasury, Department of Commerce, Department of Labor. These are just a few of the US government agencies that are involved in this effort. I can't name everybody because there's so many. And we also have foreign governments, of course. There's the 123 foreign governments that co-sponsor the resolution. But again, we know that there are so many more that are supportive and that are talking to us about how best that we can initiate this initiative or implement this initiative in 2026. We also have non-governmental organizations. We're talking to the private sector, quite a few companies in the private sector are interested in this effort, academic institutions. We have schools that are doing research and reporting for us, foundations, international organizations, and most importantly, you. This effort, again, is very inclusive, and so everyone can be involved in this effort. And we would like for anyone that's interested to reach out to us, and we can talk about ways in which we can help to implement the international year. And this goes without saying, but I always have to say it, is that men are also encouraged and invited and more than welcome to help us in this initiative as well. This is not exclusive to women acting. We want to empower women, but we certainly want men to join us in this cause. Okay. And our primary implementing partner and the lead UN technical agency for implementing the UN year is the FAO, the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations. And they have a required structure in order to implement the year in 2026. they will establish a government structure, including a secretariat and a steering committee that helps to guide the overall policy. They'll develop a global action plan for the year. And this is very important for anyone that wants to partner with us on this effort. They will have a communications guide that includes a visual identity and a logo. And anybody that wants to use this logo in support of the International Year is more than welcome to. There are some guidelines, but they are fairly, I think, amenable for anybody that wants to participate. And so we really do encourage you to utilize that logo and to help increase support for the International Year. The logo should be available probably midway through 2025. And potential engagement opportunities that we're looking at. USDA and the US government have already done a lot to support women in agriculture and to promote awareness even before the resolution was passed. Some of these things include having some of our undersecretaries or senior USDA leaders engage in trade missions and roundtables focused on women in agriculture. We are doing collaborations with the International Climate Hubs, just like this one that we're on right now. We are having speakers at conferences and different events or doing media interviews. The social media spotlights will start soon. We want to look at opinion pieces and articles in traditional media outlets and also data research and reporting. And we are looking at mentorship programs and how to increase women's access to networks for women in agriculture. And again, roundtables, just so we're making connections between different women in the agricultural space. Okay. This is my last substantive slide, and this is just to give you an overview of what things look like. Again, in 2024, we passed the resolution. We had a USDA launch event. We're doing trade missions that highlight women in agriculture. And the World Food Prize at the end of this month, our Undersecretary Taylor will be joined by Assistant Secretary Holman from State Department and the Assistant to the Administrator for USAID, Diane Esposito, and they will speak at a side event at the World Food Prize. We've also have fellowship and exchange programs that have focused on women in agriculture. Our Cochrane Fellowship Program had programs focused on women and agricultural entrepreneurs. We've also had programs on women and sustainable agricultural production, for example. So these are just a few examples of things that have already happened, and we certainly expect this programming to not just happen, but to increase in 2025. And in 2026, FAO will host its official launch event for the International Year. That's also, again, the year that the US hosts the G20. And we plan to have goodwill ambassadors, and these are more public figures that we hope will help spread awareness of the International Year. FAO will also host a closing event at the end of 2026 or early 2027. And one other thing that I'd really like to highlight about the International Year is that 2026 is also the UN year for rangelands and pastoralists. And we are in close contact with the organizers of that International Year because there are a lot of synergies with the International Year of the Women Farmer. So we want to make people aware of that effort as well. And if anyone has questions about that, we're certainly happy to put you in contact with that group. And so I'll end here with our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to talk to you more about the International Year of the Women Farmer and how to get involved. And I'm also available to take questions right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Candace. It's exciting to see this go again from an idea to a thing. It took a lot of work and a lot of people to make this happen, but I'm super excited about it. You mentioned a nexus with climate change, and the International Climate Hub will also be featuring international women farmers who are doing climate smart practices in our interview series that we'll talk about in just a moment. So that will be one way that we support the initiative. Let me see if there are questions in the chat. Do you have a website yet? I know you had a contact thing at the end.
We do. I can put it in
Okay.
the chat. Yeah, it was in the last slide, but I will drop it in
Yeah, that
the
would be
chat.
great. All right.
And FAO will also stand up a website halfway through next year as well. So this is the USDA hosted website, but we'll have another one
Mhm.
from FAO.
Yeah, it's just wonderful to see female farmers being supported in this way, and sort of lifted up. There are so many women involved in farming, and they're often in sort of background, even though
Yeah.
they're often and many times doing the producing and making all the decisions. And so anyway, it's just a very exciting initiative. Very, very excited.
Very excited about it.
All right.
Any more questions? No? All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to invite Andre to join me in the on screen, and he and I are going to be talking about some International Climate Hub initiatives that we have going on in the next year. You know, we started this webinar with a description of the International Climate Hub. We talked about our tools and our resources and some of our programs, and then we invited Bill Gould to talk about his Climate Hub in the Caribbean. And what we want to do today is talk a little more in depth about some of the future things that we have planned that we think could really interest you. And so, Andre, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, that would be great.
Okay, can you see the screen?
Sure can. Thank you very much.
All right.
Well, I already mentioned this a little bit, but the Know Your Global Farmer, that is an interview series where we are going to be featuring international farmers. And in 2026, it'll largely be women. But it's an attempt to interview people and tell their personal stories in order to attract people through those personal stories into more climate smart practices. So it's a little bit of a lighter touch, but it leads to a more substantive discussion later in the articles about the actual practices and techniques that people are utilizing around the world that are climate smart. The Climate Hive, we'll talk a little bit more in depth in a second, but the Country Liaison Network. I know that we talked about this a little bit in the first webinar, but this is, again, another big initiative that we're going to be launching over the coming year. And in this initiative, we're asking all countries to indicate a representative that could join a network of countries associated with the International Climate Hub. So therefore, we can talk to you specifically about what are you doing in Jamaica about this particular practice? Or in Guyana, what do you think about this type of resource? We want to make you aware of our programs and our webinars. We want to have just a point of contact. So that's the idea of the Country Liaison Network. The Global Gateway is a brand new part of our website that we're going to be launching at the end of this month, if things go well. And this will be an exciting new entry point into the International Climate Hub website. This will be a place where we can feature a lot of our new programs that currently can't quite fit into the current website. So we're excited to launch that. And within that is going to be an agro-climate atlas. This is a unique new tool where we will be on a country basis talking about certain weather and climatic indicators for each country and their impact on agricultural lands. And we'll be doing that in current time, so the last week, the last month, but we'll also be comparing it to historic trends and outliers. So that's a neat new tool that will be available again at the end of October. In Climate Planner Global, we talked about that again at the beginning, but we'll be offering a whole bunch of new functionality within Climate Planner Global. If you remember, that is the tool that allows you to select conservation practices that you're using on your land now, and it gives you a prediction about the reductions in greenhouse gases based on those specific conservation practices. So in this coming year, we're adding conservation practices regarding livestock, fertilizer practices. We already added agroforestry. So anyway, I just wanted to flag again that there'll be some new functionality coming in that tool. But the main thing we want to talk to you about, if you want to advance the slide, Andre, is the Climate Hive. So this is a concept we're going to be launching in the coming year, and we thought it might interest you all. It is basically a global networking platform, and it's going to be a platform for those who have participated in trainings like this. So you'd have to sign up, and Morgan will indicate something in the chat where you couldn't sign up for this. We want to be able to connect people. Connecting people in a more meaningful way. We know all these folks who have joined our webinars and our trainings have had common interests, common challenges, and we'd love to have a global networking platform that connects people. It's obviously specifically involving climate smart agriculture. And we're hoping it becomes a community of practice. So we're building, as I said, a part of our website that will allow for this community of practice to thrive. We want to be able to hold events. It's basically an alumni network. I don't know what else you'd call it, or networking community, but we want to hold events where we're showcasing your work. We want to hear what you all are doing, give you a forum for talking about what you're doing and sharing and seeking ideas from others. Want, again, to be networking and just an ability to facilitate knowledge sharing and exchange of ideas. So Morgan, thank you for putting that in the chat. As we will be reaching out to all of you about an official rollout of this, and we hope that you join us, and we'd love to feature you and get you all involved in this new effort. Andre, have I missed anything?
No, I think that you covered it, Barbara. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's just pause a moment and see if there are any questions from the audience for any of our panelists. We're on the Climate Hive. All right. Well, this has actually been our first regionally based webinar series. As you know, the International Climate Hub is only a year old, and this was our first effort to do something specific to a region. We'd love to have your feedback. This is something we, are planning to perhaps replicate for other regions, and but we wanted to start with the Caribbean. Your region is so unique in its on the impact of climate change on the region. It just goes without saying. And that's why we focused on this region initially. And we hope that you were able to find something of interest and take away some things you might be able to apply to your work. Bill, any closing words from you?
Well, thanks, Barbara. I really appreciate everybody that has participated today and over the last 4 seminars. And I agree with Barbara. There's so much we can learn from each other. I'm halfway joining the Hive right now.
All right.
I think that's a cool idea. And it's been a pleasure working with the International Climate Hub team, and looking forward to more collaboration in the future. And feel free, folks, to reach out to us, if you see any ideas from our Caribbean partners that might be of value or applicable in your regions as well.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and stay tuned to activities of the International Climate Hub and all these coalitions and international organizations that you heard about today. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.